Welcome to another edition of Vigorously with me, Valpine Hands. Very special guest in the building that I am stoked for. Singer and harpist Lindsay Schoolcraft is in the building. Lindsay, is Mercury in retrograde just trying you right now? How are we?
Yeah, same.
It is.
Same thing. Going through it. But thank you for having me. I'm really stoked to be here.
I'm excited to have you here too. I don't know what it is about Mercury and retrograde and all. What in the world happens with the stars, and why does it make all the weirdness just come out at once? Odd, just happens
Oh,
that
I
way.
could tell you all about that, but I don't think that's why I'm here.
You, what do you know? Teach me. I am interested.
Oh man. Okay, so I mean, from an astrological standpoint, if you're like super into zodiacs and astrology, Mercury retrograde is when in the axis of the sky it looks like it's moving backwards. And
Oh,
it just affects a lot to do with technology and communication. And then depending on what all the other planets are doing, it like this one for um for example, Uranus is just going everywhere and causing a lot of distortion. And if you're really into zodiacs and horoscopes, your rising sign is greatly affected by retrograde. So whatever your rising sign is,
oh,
it's there's certain specific. So mine has definitely been I'm Cancer rising even though I'm Pisces.
me
And
too. That's
oh
why we've
wait,
been moody.
oh, are you a Cancer or Pisces? What are you?
I'm a Cancer rising, but I'm a Capricorn sun. So that's
Oh,
why
I love that.
we've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
moody.
Especially like things to do with money and business have really greatly affected us the last 6 weeks. And I know you were sick. I know you got COVID, which I'm
Yeah,
just like, well, that destroys business. So especially as a Capricorn, you're probably feeling it way worse. But for me, it's just
yeah.
been more like, oh, but yeah, so that's you can go like check what your rising sign is doing during retrograde or gatorade or mercury in the microwave, whatever we call it.
I like Gatorade better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you as the awesome metal musician, but astrology and witchy things and spiritual things, that's something that you obviously indulge in, but it's your hobby with wishful thinking, the podcast too.
Yes.
So tell
Yes.
me about that. Tell me about that. What are the goods? What do we get when we listen?
Oh man, wishful thinking. So fun backstory to that. I mean, we can talk about podcasts, or I guess we'll start with me as a kid. My mom kind of gave me this like super outdated book on astrology from the 70s when
Oh,
I was a kid. And it's just like, it's gross. It smells like an old book. It might be moldy. I still have it. It's where my Pisces tattoo came from because it had like some old hippy dippy Art Nouveau looking artwork in it that I stole for my tattoo. And that was like the beginning. That was like the like thanks mom, like you send me to Roman Catholic school for 14 years, but then you give me this book and wonder why it all went wrong. So
that's where it started.
yeah, so I
That's
mean
it.
I didn't really get into it until like I guess about 8 years ago. It's just like the new hyper focus, like micromania, hyperfixation, and I was like, oh, this is fun. um So with the Wishful Thinking podcast, they were a podcast that started during the pandemic, and originally it was Brooke and another host, and I became a guest on an episode about manifestation and like the law of
Oh,
attraction and believing in yourself and like achieving your dreams. Essentially, was like the topic. And then they like loved having me on. Bless them that they're like we talked about, oh, we should do like a bad boyfriend episode, and then like a year ago they decided to bring me on as a co-host, and now it's just me and Brooke. And that's where we're at. It's great. It's Brooke's awesome, like just to be able to hang out with her and her sass. And there's a huge age gap between us, like between 9 and 10, so I feel like the boomer in that relationship. But
I'm
I
sure you're
do
not.
I like oh I feel I'm feeling it sometimes, like she's got that youth on me. So the dynamic is really fun, and we talk about everything, like real life concepts to do with like self-development, self-improvement. If you're into the spiritual space and working on that, we have like so many cool guests that come on, and we have a lot of cool guests coming up within the next year. So that's wishful thinking, and I love doing it. It's been an absolute joy to dive into this year.
I can't believe it's just something that you fell into. Like that's what happens when you start saying yes to shit. Really. It is.
Yeah, yeah, it just I really believe that if something is meant for you, no matter how much you try to resist it, it's just gonna whoosh into your life and stay there. And then if it's not meant for you, no matter how hard you try, it's not gonna come. Like that's just my belief system when it comes to like what is and isn't meant to be in your life, whether it's jobs, careers, hobbies, people, family, friends, pets. Like when a random cat just shows up, it's like, oh, this is your cat now. So I think I'm
It
wishfully
happens.
thinking that. Uh, for cat number two at the moment. But yeah, so that's I don't know. That's just it happened, and here we are.
Oh my God. Does Vesper interrupt your cat's Vesper? For those of you who don't know, does he interrupt your recording? Because mine, it will interrupt mine. If I were at home right now, she would be right here. Pantera would be hanging out right here, is
Oh,
her
I
name.
love the name. Um, he is actually more active. Like we record the podcast in the evening, so he's more active in the morning. So every
Oh, okay.
Thursday at my day job, we have like a meeting with the whole staff, and that's where he's like proper up there, like showing everyone his butthole. And I'm just like, dude, like lay off. Like, come on. Like
We
everyone
don't
knows
need
you're
to see
happy
it.
and healthy. Yeah, no, like you need to charge for that stuff. Like get out of here. So
I tell my cat that, listen, I'm like, listen, bitch, rent is due. Rent is
yeah,
due. Like, are you going to do something? Because your cuteness is about all you have going for you. You won't hunt. You won't do anything else. She's an indoor cat. She hangs out inside. Do
yeah,
something. Come on.
yeah. Just please, like, and we always joke that like Vesper's our freeloading roommate who
Yeah.
doesn't do anything, like just
Yep.
like eats up our bills, eats our nice things, like doesn't work, doesn't have a schedule, doesn't we're just like no, but he's great. He's a good boy. He was it was my midlife crisis. I was going through a thing and I was like, I need something to love. And 48 hours later,
Oh.
I had a kitten and I'm like, oh, here we go.
That's not the worst way to get through a crisis. I've heard worse, like purchases, worse indulgences.
I didn't have that much money at my midlife crisis. If I
Yeah.
had tens of thousands of dollars, it may have resulted in the typical checklist of like a car or body
Yeah.
augmentation or like but I was like I only got $300 in the bank, so let's just go get a kitten.
Let's let's go find a farm down the street. They've got some just hanging out that
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
great mouse
it was a
raised.
it was a financially like good decision because when you get them from the shelter for $180 at
Yeah.
3 months, everything's done, right? Like the surgery's done, the vacs are up to date. Whereas you
Right.
get a kitten like without all of that, you're looking at for the next year like $2,000. And I was like, this midlife crisis cannot do
Yeah.
that. So what's the shelter got?
A little bit older.
That's
No,
a big commitment.
I support that. I believe that animals can come into your life at random times like that too. You were talking about how that might be a little bit connected to just the universe and astrology. Like my cat sort of came into my life unknowingly too. I didn't even know she was available, but I was like, there she is. There's somebody that can't have her anymore because they developed an allergy. And I was like, well, I just
Right.
lost mine who looked almost exactly like her, which was really creepy. Like they were almost like
Oh,
carbon copied. And I was
yeah.
like, well, for crying out loud, I got to take her now. And then she meowed along to the riff and walk, and that's why she's Pantera. Like,
It's such a
dun,
good
dun,
name
dun,
though. I
dun.
love that
Yeah,
origin story.
that's her story, and
Oh,
but she's not as like heavy as Phil Anselmo though. She's just not. She's afraid of everything. She doesn't like dogs. She will hide. She's not a beast like he is. So I'm like maybe we screwed up on the name. I don't know, but
I don't know though. Wouldn't don't you think that he is that way because maybe he's those things internally?
oh, fair point.
You want to get deep. You want to get deep about human psychology because animals just are, but humans wear masks and we pretend to be things. And when we're performers, I'm just like, I don't know, like Phil. When I look at Phil, I see a sad little baby boy who needs a hug.
He wouldn't mind a hug. You know,
Yeah,
I probably he'd be okay with that. Did you ever feel like, I mean, your career in music is span years, really. Well, have you
yeah.
ever, if not decades, like
Two
it's
over 2 decades now.
over 2 decades. But have you ever felt like you had to put on a mask when you were performing? You love the headdresses, just side note, which are
Yeah.
adorable. But like the mask, the facade that we're talking about, did you ever feel like you had to put one on? Because to me, watching you as a fan, I'm like, no, I'm seeing what I'm getting right now as we're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah. I mean, when I was specifically on stage with Cradle of Filth. Like
Mm,
there was a persona there, but it was tied into this stage presence that I created that was kind of influenced by like Tarja and other like symphonic, like female fronted symphonic metal singer. I don't
icons.
even know how to say it anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mercury, Gatorade is doing it again. Can't talk. Like Tarja and like Sharon and you know Amy Lee maybe in there too. Like all these different women in female fronted symphonic metal. There we go. Um, but also like this character that I formed from the lore of Cradle of Filth, which is like vampires and Lilith and
Yeah.
Bathory. Like it was all part of the entertaining creative process of like theater and performing. And that was authentic to me because it's like I'm this like this other side of Lindsay Schoolcraft on stage, and everyone will say that. I will say though, when I was off stage, um, I don't do this anymore because I don't have to, but like, you know, being on the spectrum, I would put on a mask and I'd be overly social and
Mm,
everybody's best friend. And it was exhausting because at the
yeah.
end of the day, who I truly am is a very quiet, introverted creature who just wants to chill on the couch. Like, you know, but that rock star lifestyle was like so big and boisterous. It's like, okay, I'm gonna keep up with this, but then I wonder why like I get so burned out after a tour. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I'm definitely settling more into who I am these days, but like who I was on stage, I mean, I don't think that's ever gonna go away when I come back to it. I think there's gonna still be a bit of that there because it's kind of like putting on that old pair of shoes and walking around in them. It's comfortable.
I don't even know if you need to be on the spectrum to feel that. Anybody can just get overstimulated. And it's like
Yes.
like just
Yes.
kind of like a cat. It kind of like a cat. Like
Yes.
people compare cats to balloons. Like when you pet them too much or when you interact with them too much, they get like kind of physically and emotionally, they like fill up like balloons. And it's like, okay, we're here. We don't need any more. We're done. And then
Yeah.
they explode. And everybody's like, well, why did the cat explode? No, no, because they're overstimulated. It becomes too
Yeah.
much. Honestly, that began my awareness of you and your career too, was Cradle. Like because the first
Yeah.
time I saw you with them live for the first time 2016 Chicago House of
Oh,
Blues,
wow.
and this was so since then. And to be like, not to be creepy, but when I looked at you on stage, I'm like, am
No.
I looking in a fucking mirror? Because I'm just as pale and dark haired and I had even longer
Yeah.
hair then, and I was like, wait a minute, am I looking in a mirror? And then I started listening to the music and I'm like, hold on, now she can actually play? What? Like, so this is mind-blowing. So how did you sort of just like decompress when you're overstimulated and you're in those environments and you and are on the spectrum, and it does become a lot in that lifestyle?
I mean, back then, unfortunately, I turned to alcohol, which like I'm almost 3 years sober now, thank
It
God. But
happens.
like, you know, the anxiety was just awful. But I think what I did, it was kind of weird. Like in the beginning days of Cradle, I could just go, go, go. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm on these world tours. I'm in a big metal band. I'm seeing all my friends all over the world, like meeting with the fans and performing every night in a different city. Like this is the coolest shit ever. But then when you get into like World Tour 3, you're like, well, unless it's a place I've never been before, I don't really need to go out and see anything. I don't want to go shopping. I'd like, you know, and the guys would
Mm,
love to do that. And I felt bad because they would go out and I wanted to go join them. So what I would do is I would just lock myself in my hotel room and I'd draw a bath and I'd order
yeah.
room service and I'd sleep for 20 hours if it was a day off. And I think that was
Yes.
just the best way to do it. I binged like cartoons on Netflix and I would write my own music, like even if it's just like putting down a voice note or writing some lyrics or calling a friend, you know, like it was very just simple self-care stuff. But there's something about the the sereneness of a white, clean hotel room.
There is.
It's just like it's just decorated and it looks a certain way where like it's so blank, it's so calming. It's almost like being in the hospital, but not really, you know. And it's like I'm not in the white padded walls. I'm here by choice. And it was, you know, and we did the band did well and there was like a lot of really nice places that we'd visit and nice hotels, even if it was a crappy little motel in England, same thing, you know.
Mm,
But it was, you know, that was kind of like my little quiet chamber that I'd go in my hidey hole and hide into. And like, you know, it took the guys a while to understand it, but eventually they're like, oh yeah, no, Lindsay, she's over, she's exhausted. And it was exhausting. Like those tours were insane.
Cool of them to understand that, because not everybody would. It
Right. Took a
sounds,
while though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you look back on your time with Cradle fondly. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have to. Like, you
Mhm.
know, you can't like no band is perfect. It's you're involved with other people. It is a relationship. It's like a marriage to five other people. And
Yeah.
you're dealing with so many personalities and you get worn down and people don't have emotional regulation like you do and things are done and said that weren't meant and you just have to like for my own sanity I have to forgive it and let it go. Like being in the industry and being in a band is not sunshine and rainbows. I'll be the first person to like tell everyone that, but I do look back on it now very fondly. I'm grateful it happened. I wouldn't be where I am today, but at the same time, I have made peace with the fact that I did have to go and leave it in the past.
Mm, got it. It's sometimes it can be hard to revisit things too, but that means there's an
Hmm.
exciting future ahead. Plenty of the times
Yes.
too. I mean, now
Yes.
you're looking to 8 demos recently. I'm reading.
Oh,
I'm like, this woman is a machine. So something's cooking. Can you tell us anything about that?
oh man, I think it's amazing that you think I've been so productive because um the the last oh man, the last 3 years have been like life in the universe, just like taking a sledgehammer to me.
To a
And
lot of us, I think, especially with the
I think we're all
pandemic,
going through it.
the
Everything post-pandemic,
political, yeah,
the economy, everything. And
yeah.
I've wanted to do my second solo album for a long time now, but uh, the team wasn't there because everyone else is fighting their own battles and has their own priorities and struggling with things. And I could just never afford things or I had to go back to work because like my music just like, because I'm not releasing new music and I'm not on tour, which is extremely expensive right now. Ask anyone with the merch cuts and
Good
and
God,
gas
yeah.
and the everyone fighting to get a bus. It's just been insane. So I have slowly been chipping away at demos for like 3 years, which just like rots my soul because you know, I have to give myself grace when I look back on my first album, Martyr. I was doing it between Cradle tours and it took me 2 years to do. And I'm at I'd say like for seriously bogging down and getting this like album done. I'm at the 2 year mark and we have another year ahead of us at least.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I've been working on it and I really like it. And I don't think people are going to recognize I mean,
Okay.
listen, Rocky Gray, who used to be in Evanescence, he's still on board. He's contributed quite a few songs, but I think he's kind of done with that old sound too. And we just all decided like, what are all our influences, and not just like new metal and alternative, but like trip hop and classical and electronic. And we're like, well, let's just like bring this all together and see what comes up. Let's just make music for the love of making music and write stuff that we like,
Period.
without thinking, yeah, because like my first album, I look back on my first album and think I had some deep thoughts about it. I was like, wow, like I did that completely out of desperation and necessity and like I just didn't want to be in Cradle forever. And I didn't have near the end, I didn't really have a big say on writing for that band anymore. And I was like, I need to keep writing. So
Ah,
I did it, but I just wrote it. Like Rocky sent me a bajillion, what felt like a bajillion demos. It was more like 20. And I just kept writing and writing and writing. And then, all of a sudden there's an album. But then when we went to play it live, we're like, oh, this is not a live album. This like there's maybe two songs on it that like people can really move to, but the rest of it's like this down tempo, like gothic doom stuff. And we're like, shit. So moving into this album, we are very cognizant of, oh, like we need live songs. We need shit that are gonna get people like banging their head, shaking their booty, opening up a pit, like
let's
moving
go.
around,
Wall of
like
Death.
the baddies are coming out, but like the
Yes.
people who want a wall of death are coming out. Like everyone is coming out and they're just like, yeah, like I want something to groove to. So, and that's cool because I'm such a big fan of trip hop and we're bringing in some trip hop elements. So I appreciate you're like, man, girl, you've been so busy. And I was like, oh, but I have not.
But I mean, I get that too. Like sometimes people look at me and they're like, "You put out how many podcast episodes this week? What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Well, one, I'm psychotic and neurotic, and also an introvert. So let's start there. So I do prefer to stay at home and be in my little lab and
Yeah.
create it the same way. It sounds the same way you do. Two, it's just fucking fun. And it's
Yeah, it
got to be
is.
fun. It's a relief. It sounds just hearing you talk. It's a relief for you to be doing more of your own thing and having more of a say in what you're doing. And I have to imagine that out of the thousands of collaborations you've done, like literally, it may have been thousands at
Too
this point.
many. Yeah, too many.
Like, is there anybody left on the list that you would want to do
Oh,
something with?
oh, I appreciate you asking that.
Because
I was thinking
we'll let
about
them know right now. We'll let them know right now.
Oh, I mean, like everyone knows, yeah, like obviously there's Jonathan Davis from Korn, there's
Period.
Curly the pop star, well, goth pop, bubble goth pop star. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's almost some like I want to revisit, like I have done again, obviously. It's like my favorite band in high school.
Mm.
Um,
Carla
oh
Harvey might
God,
be
if
free. I'd like that.
I yeah, I mean that would be sick. Like there's definitely an abundance of like guttural vocalists that I would love to have on board, but I think like I don't know, like the big one lately that I would love to do something with them, but I don't know if it would ever happen is like Ethel Kane. Like I'm
Mm.
in this weird place of like listening to these pop stars and or they're not pop, she's like slowcore. Um it's like this whole other Southern Gothic type thing. But yeah, no, you caught me off guard. I was so not prepared. I mean, we can open up the Spotify and look at what I've been listening to, and then like that might give, yeah, there's Ethel Kane. Um, I don't know if like Christaberg would be it. I was just listening to Lady in Red because it's such an incredible song. It's so old school.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
yeah,
look at your
no,
Spotify day list and like look at the weird titles that they give you?
I'm terrified to even
Because mine today is divorced
go
dad rock
there.
rocking on Wednesday afternoon. I'm like, what?
Uh Audiobook. What is it called again? What is this part of Spotify?
It's called like if you go to the made for you section, then it will pop up with day list.
Oh, okay. Daily Mix 1, Daily
Yeah,
Mix 2, Daily Mix 3, 4, 5, 6, DJ that is
day
in beta.
list. Yeah,
Released, yeah,
that
I'm
might
kind
be
of
one.
boring. I'm kind of vanilla.
So am I
Oh,
because mine is titled divorced dad rock rocking on Wednesday afternoon. I swear to God. That's what, and I'm like, and really, it's Alice in Chains, Smashing Pumpkins, and Danzig, and White Zombie, and I'm like, do
it makes
divorced
me
dads?
sad.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, is that all
Like
they listen to?
was that like what every guy we knew in high school who listened to that is now a
Pretty,
divorced dad? Like I'm kind of concerned for that demographic, you know?
like, are you okay?
Okay, here's some. Okay, so crosses is
Hmm.
definitely like Chino, Monero, and crosses is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitty's on here. Let me see. Probably Lacey from Flyleaf. That would be pretty sick.
Oh, she'd be amazing.
I mean, there's so many. Perfect Circle. Like, I'm just naming off ones that would be neat. But like, I don't know. I've just been in this place of like, I just want to make my own music and then like think about collaborators later. You know what I mean? So
Totally acceptable. Totally
yeah.
acceptable. I can't wait to see what comes next, really. And spooky season's on the way. So I had to ask this because it's coming soon. Super, super excited. We're into the spiritual things, we're into the witchy things. Do you think the stigma and stereotypes that come with witches still exist? Because I feel like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
I mean, not where I live, and like I would say not in Canada and the northern states, mainly because Canada is just
Mm,
so open and accepting to so many religions and cultures. But like the northern states is like, yeah, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, the South, like, I wouldn't even
uh,
try it. I think wherever religion is used as a tool to control, pollute, and manipulate, I think the stigmas are still there, just by what people have been told, and they don't know any better. But I don't live in fear of anyone like coming after me with a torch. Thank God.
yeah. No, that would be too much. You can't live in fear. And I think that's
No.
definitely the biggest lesson to take away from this whole thing. It's what you're doing, it's how you're living. I thank you so much for your time. I thank you so much
Of
for your
course.
wisdom, and I can't wait to see what's next, Lindsay. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.